It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, WCCS AM 1160, FM 101.1. All right, if you have a question for Bob Pollock, give him a call right now at 349-WCCS, that's 349-9227, or at 479-1160, and ask him whatever it is that you want. And we're getting to the time when we get our plants indoors now, and we better have them indoors by now.
Better have them indoors.
And it's time for the annual question, Bob. When do we get the poinsettia? What do we do with the poinsettia in order to get it to bloom red when we want it to bloom red? We've had it in that darkened room for a while, haven't we?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's the first step.
Because it takes about 10 weeks or so for that to get all set up and in place. So back at the beginning of October would have been the best time to have started that process.
Okay.
Putting it in the complete darkness for 10 to 12 hours. 12 hours is better every night with no interruption. So if you just stick it in a side room or a spare room or bedroom, but you go in there and turn the light on, then you've interrupted it, and you got to set the clock back and start all over again.
So you wake it up, and it goes, what? Huh? What? And so you have to start all over, put it back to sleep.
Yes.
Okay.
So it needs that complete 12 hours of darkness, and then needs to be out in the light. And actually during cooler temperatures at night, and that's hard to do realistically, but if it's a little cooler room, that helps. And then during the day, bring it out in the sunshine when we get that.
Yeah, when is that?
Or in a window where it can get the most light that it can, and a little bit warmer temperatures during the day. And do that for 2 months or so, and boom, you ought to have red bracts or whatever color that you have now, because there's so many different colors.
Yeah. It makes
available.
You wonder if anybody really anymore tries to preserve that poinsettia year to year, or if they simply say, all right, I'll get a new one next year.
I'm sure it's a lot less than it used to be.
Yeah.
But that can be a good project if, for kids or grandkids, or the neighbors' kids for that matter, just to be able to go through that process. It may not be new to us. We may not have any need to do it or desire to do it anymore, but just that learning process that we can affect change on a plant by putting it through this process can be a good learning tool for kids.
In our lobby is an enormous Christmas cactus that is very, very impressive, and it's maintained by Dave Neely. He takes care of that baby. It's his baby. And we're anticipating that it should be coming into bloom in the next month.
It should be, yes.
Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. People want to stop and see that thing. That really is neat, isn't it?
He's taken very good care of that over the years and nurtured it along and babied it, and it does produce some nice blooms.
Those blooms on the Christmas cactuses, or cacti, if you're trying to get them to come out at Christmas time, it really has more to do with the timing of the plant than it does anything else, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, timing of the plant, but then also you can have them, and that's the thing, you can have them come in at Thanksgiving if you want to have it come in then, or Christmas or some other holiday. It's all about that timing and, again, putting it in that darkness for that period of time that it needs to set those flower buds, and then you'll have that display.
All right, there you go. 7:50 in the morning, 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. That's 349-9227 if you have a question for Bob. So folks have pretty much become indoor people now. Yesterday I spent a few hours out on the lawn chopping up leaves. With so many of the trees are still green. I'm looking at one right down the street here. It's still green. It's the middle of November.
It is. Maybe after tonight,
it'll start dropping.
It'll start, turning color and dropping leaves. But it has been kind of a strange fall.
Yeah, a very strange fall.
With regard to getting those to change, and then some trees went very early. Some of those had diseased leaves and things. And they dropped off. They just dropped off.
Yeah.
And there was a little period of stress there where we had so much moisture dried out, and then boom, those were gone. But
let's get our caller here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a question about sweet potatoes. This was the second year that I've ventured into growing sweet potatoes, and I amended the soil with compost because it was a kind of a heavy clay soil. And what I harvested were some sweet potatoes that looked like sweet potatoes. They had the shape of sweet potatoes. But most of the fruit that I harvested were more like tubers, maybe round like a quarter and twisted and so forth. And I noticed that some of them were growing right up to the bottom of the plant, and some of them in a circular fashion. So can you enlighten me on what to do next year?
There you go. There's the challenge for you.
We probably need to work a little more on the soil. Soil will greatly affect any of those tuberous crops, whether it's carrots or sweet potatoes or potatoes, and they will be affected by the soil itself, and also whether there's stones in there. Stonier soil, you can get a lot of misshapen tubers, and heavy clay soil, same way. It's it's very dense, and it's harder for that tuber to size and grow consistently and expand when there's variability in the soil. So, more organic matter would be helpful to try and get that to loosen that soil up some more, make it a little bit easier for those tubers to grow in size.
Okay.
And then sweet potatoes need another thing that may have affected those this year was we had cooler, cloudier conditions and very wet conditions for quite a while. And they're a long day. We need a lot of growing days to mature those, more so than some of our other tuberous crops. So a nice, hot, warm summer, they will do much better. Drier even would be conditions that they would prefer. So it may be a combination here of the temperatures and the moisture and the growing conditions, along with the physical structure of the soil that affected those this year.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
There you go.
And that's even with regular potatoes, that will happen where you've got. Of course, you get various sizes. Anyhow, they're not. Every tuber is not the same size. Yeah. And that's part of when they start to form, how long they have to grow, the number of tubers that are there trying to mature and size up, as well as the overall health of the plant and the nutrient availability and water availability in the soil. We'll also see misshapen fruit or vegetables when we have conditions, especially with moisture, where we have, and temperature is involved here also, but where we have a stoppage and then starting again of growth. So the plant gets in a period of stress. Maybe it goes up in the high 90s and it's very dry, and the plant doesn't have enough moisture, and we're also at the high end of that plant's preferred growing temperatures. And so that plant will partially shut down just to preserve energy and preserve moisture in the plant, and so the fruit or vegetable stops growing for a period of time. And then when we regain back to better conditions, then that potato, in this case, will start to grow again and size up. But so you get a shrinkage there. Zucchini will do that too, where if you get misshapen, they'll maybe be narrower in the middle and bigger at the other end, and that all has to do with those growing conditions at that particular period of time.
Just a couple of moments left, but spacing of the plants in terms of being able to draw moisture to the two different fruits at that time, is spacing a part of that equation too?
Yeah, anytime we try to crunch things together that will, the root zones of the root systems of those plants that are trying to grow in that space, so they can compete against one another, and then having, and that can cause some stress too, or shading when they're too close together, so that will factor in also.
All right, there you go. He's Bob Pollock, Penn State Extension. Thank you, sir. Anything else you need to tell us about here this morning?
Welcome.
Anything coming up?
Oh, we have various things coming up in the future. We've got in December it's a regional program that'll be held up in Mercer County, but it's a high tunnel production workshop. That's a 2-day workshop on December 13th and 14th. We already had a Food Safety Modernization Act that is training where producers will get an official certificate from the FDA for attending this food safety, and it's farm food safety training. Some growers have to comply with this by the federal law. Other people may want to take it and have the certification because they want to market that we have gone through this. But the next one, we had one in Bedford last week. We'll have one in Erie coming up December 5th, and then we'll have one, there's others around the state, but then the next closest one will be in February 13th in Westmoreland County, the Extension office there.
He is Bob Pollock from the Extension Service. He's working on his butter sculpture for the farm show in January, and we'll let him get back to work.
That'll be here soon.
It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. It's WCCS AM 1160 and FM 101.1.